Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Heidi Horsley, and I am here today with a topic that is so near and dear to my heart. My father died in 2020, and it was a very, very big loss. I never knew my life without him on the earth. And I'm here today to talk with two of our guests who have unfortunately lost not one parent, but both parents. So they have walked the walk and talked the talk, and they're going to talk to you today about how they survived and how they eventually went on to find hope again. So let me introduce them, and then we will get started with our show. Next to me is Zaneta Gileno. Hi, Zaneta.
Hi.
Zaneta is a dear friend. She's been on our show before. And Zaneta is a grief professional, social worker, and a psychotherapist. When she was just 10 years old, her dad died of a heart attack. And in 2023, her mom died of lung issues. Zaneta has a private practice, Hope Rising Psychotherapy and Wellness, which offers individual grief and trauma work and hosts adventures and retreats. She is an adjunct professor at Columbia University. Zaneta currently serves as Senior Mental Health Advisor and board member of Repatriate Our Patriots. Zaneta previously worked as the Director of Community-Based Care at the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, also known as TAPS. Welcome, Zaneta.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So glad to have you on. And joining you is a friend of both of ours, and her name is Kim Burditt Bartlett, and I know you both worked together at TAPS at one point.
We did.
Kim, in 2010, your younger brother John died of suicide, which forever changed your life. Since that time, both Kim's parents have died, her dad in 2016 and her mom in 2022. Kim is the co-founder of Sibling Strong Retreats. Kim serves as Senior Manager of Family Engagement for the Black Box Project at Stop Soldier Suicide, a groundbreaking initiative using digital data to better understand and prevent suicide. Kim also has a master's degree in social work. She previously worked at the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, known as TAPS, where she created trauma-informed programs, events, and resources for survivors. Welcome, Kim.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
So I know that you lost a brother, as did I, but today we are going to be focusing on parent loss. For those of you that want to hear more about sibling loss and Kim's journey, we do have another show that is dedicated to that as well. Okay, Zaneta, I want to start with you today. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, so when I was 10 years old, my dad died. He had a heart attack, and then in 2023, my mom died. She had COPD, like a lung issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was a terminal, that was, your dad's, it sounds like, was sudden.
It was very sudden, yeah.
And you were not prepared and you didn't realize it was going to happen.
No.
And then your mom's was it a terminal illness?
Yeah, it was progressive, but she passed much sooner than we anticipated.
That's the interesting thing I think about. People ask me which is easier, sudden or an illness, a terminal illness. And I said, well, at the end of the day, I know with my father, even when you're expecting it, you don't expect it on some level. And you don't know when it's going to happen, and you hold on to hope that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that could turn around.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, thank you, Zaneta.
You're welcome.
Okay, Kim, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, so as you shared, my brother died in 2010, but 6 years later, my dad's health was profoundly impacted by the loss of his son, and he had some heart issues. And 6 years later, he essentially dropped dead of what we believed to be a heart attack. We were out of state, and I lived in Massachusetts at the time, and we were out of state, and so it was just a very foreign experience, not at a local hospital that we knew or any of his doctors, or so we didn't do a full autopsy, but he had heart issues for the previous years, so that's what we thought it was. And John was my only sibling, so then it was just me and my mom. And then my mom was in 2022, and we believe she had kind of collapsed. Her legs had given out. She didn't lose consciousness, but her legs had given out under her at home, and she kind of, went to the ground, and so we called an ambulance, and they brought her to the hospital, and they did every test under the sun. And she was fine. She had the beginnings of COPD, had smoked, for many years, had stopped, but, and when she was at the hospital, I was on my way to pick her up. They were discharging her. They kept her for the weekend, did a bunch of tests, and she had some follow-ups, with specialists. And when I went to pick her up, just in the 10 minutes from, my house to the local hospital, she had collapsed and they believed she had a stroke and they couldn't revive her in the hospital. So that was 2022. Both of them were very quick and sudden. Mm-hmm. I had grandparents that lived into their, late 80s and early 90s. So I immediately, when my dad died, I remember thinking in the emergency room, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough time. Mm-hmm. That wasn't enough.
Well, that's the thing I think people don't realize. No matter how old, and I know you lost your dad really young.
Yeah.
But no matter how old our parents are, we're not ready to say goodbye.
Right. Right.
Right. And some of us have close relationships, some have ambivalent, but either way, you're not ready. And if you have ambivalent, because we were talking about this, I remember yesterday, there's no time to then repair it because the relationship is ended.
Right.
What do you both think is unique about losing a parent? And in both of your cases, parents.
We talked a little bit about this at dinner last night, right? It's a feeling of untethered, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like we don't know life, as you said, we don't know life without our parents, right? Because we were born into life with our parents. We don't know what that is like without them. When you lose both of them, after my second, loss when my mom died, it's this feeling of like, am I an orphan? I don't, there's nothing, and I have other blood relatives, right? We know that, but like there's no one tying me to this earth. And just that sort of untethered feeling. And also it felt very, like this huge sense of responsibility that now I'm the grown-up, I'm the adult, apparently. Like, okay, I'm the one that has to make the decisions and I'm the one that has to, maybe lead the family or, which I was kind of probably doing before anyhow, but now there was no one to kind of get feedback from or to get a different opinion or to think about, what would my mom say about this, and talk to her about it,
Yeah.
I mean, I've only lost my dad. I've only lost one parent. And even then, like when I would do something that I was proud of, I knew that I would go to him first because he'd be really proud of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, who am I going to go to now? That's the person that was the most excited when I would accomplish something. And so it was weird not to have him there. And also, I felt like the joy and the magic went out because he created a lot of that. And I remember, Zaneta, you saying that your mom really created a lot of magic and joy in your life. And then when she was gone, you were talking about the holidays and what that was going to look like now that she was no longer there.
Yeah, and like for me, I just don't feel ready to be the one that makes the magic. And I'm really grateful to have a sister-in-law who can kind of step up and be the matriarch. But it had to be a conversation to be like, I'm not ready and I still really need this. I still really need somebody to like host us for Christmas and do the things because that was my mom's thing. Like she loved to decorate and make Christmas a really big deal. And so, yeah, it's very different. And I think of the experience of losing my daddy when I was 10 and being such a daddy's girl. And my whole life changed in such a huge way. And I still am a daddy's girl. My mom remarried, and so about 14, my stepdad came into my life. And so I still am a daddy's girl, but it was very different. And I knew when he wasn't coming home, like it was going to be really different. I just didn't know how. And I have to say, after my mom died, because I've lived away from home for so many years, I didn't expect to feel so untethered as Kim and I had talked about. I didn't expect to feel like I didn't have an anchor because I hadn't lived at home for so many years. And I even live out of state and have for a really long time. So that has been especially difficult as an adult, as someone who does the adult things and lives away from home, just to feel like I didn't know how to exist without my mom on the planet.
It's
very different.
Yeah. What do you both miss the most about not having parents here? And orphan is an interesting word. I didn't know how you all felt about it. Because it's like hard for me to even say it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm offending you, but you are orphans.
Yeah. It feels, like I said, it just all of a sudden like, oh, I'm the one. I'm now the one that, for my two kids who are adults now, but I'm the one that has to, if we're going to have traditions, I need to carry them on. And I'm the one that needs to remind them of the funny, they called my mother Ona. She wanted to be Nona. We're not Italian, but she wanted to be Nona, but my oldest daughter couldn't say it. She said Ona, so it stuck. But,
I love it.
I'm the one that will remind them of the fun things that Ona would do if they don't remember because they were too small. I'm the one that, so I felt a little bit of pressure, like a little bit of responsibility there. And I missed, my mom was the fun one. My dad could be fun too, but my mom was primarily the fun one. And she would do funny things and do, some kind of quirky things. And I would kind of be her partner in crime with a little bit of that. And I so dearly miss that, but I'm going to do it in her honor. When my kids get married and have kids, like of their own, now I'm looking forward to that, to be able to do that. And I so deeply miss my dad with all of he was the one that I would go to, the washing machine is doing a weird thing, Dad, and he would come over and he could fix anything, and he was my biggest fan. He most certainly, I was a daddy's girl too. And he was the one that, he just thought the sun rose and set over me. And there are people who love me in my life. There are people who probably, maybe love me almost as much as he did, but I miss having, that always in your corner, always, no matter what. So.
Yeah. I feel less like an orphan, I think, because I don't know that I would have identified with that because I have a stepdad, because my brother is a bit older than me. When our dad died, I was 10 and he was in boot camp for the Navy. And so we have, a little age gap. And so he has been very paternal to me, and my sister-in-law has been very maternal. And I have my stepdad, and he's there, and he's my daddy. But I think I really recognize that very much disconnected feeling once my mom died, that I can relate to it a little bit, that it does feel like the people that brought you into the world are no longer here. And, I don't, because my mom carried me, I'm, her birth child, I was never a part of this earth without her here. So it feels very different than I think it would have if, she hadn't have gone and I still had them both. And,
Is there anything now that you would be willing to do or that you have done now that you don't have either parent looking over your shoulder? I know that's a weird question, but...
Yeah, it's a good question, though. Do you think of something?
I had great relationships with both of my parents, but I know people who did not, right? And I think about that. I think about, someone who had, when they had lost their second parent, someone I know, they talked about how it felt kind of freeing because they very much, and they knew it, but he sort of lived to get praise from his dad, and his dad never gave it, his dad would never give his approval, and his mother was pretty rough on him, and so when they both were gone, he was sad, but also he would say, my friend, he would say, well, I don't have to, I feel a little bit free. I don't have to work to please them. I don't have to, it feels a little freeing. It feels a little, I also couldn't identify that at the time. I didn't feel like I needed to please my parents. I loved to do it. I'd love to get their praise. I love to, so I don't feel free of that, but I also don't feel that need anymore. Right. It's a different, because our relationships were good and solid. But I mean, I can understand that if there's some strife there, it's only natural, I think, to feel a little bit of relief. Like, okay, that stress is now not part of my daily life, or it's not part of my, I think it would be really natural to feel that, really normal.
Yeah, I didn't feel that. My mom had some memory issues too towards the end of her life, and we had difficult times when I was growing up, and both really strong personalities. And, as we know, that mother-daughter relationship is one of the most difficult relationships to navigate, even under the best of circumstances. Yeah. But as mom developed memory issues, somehow I got this woman back that I knew as a little girl, and we developed this closeness and this honesty, and it was really beautiful. So for me, I think had she had died years before, there could have been an element of relief because she tended to have a critical nature. But before dying, she told me all the things we really want to hear from our parents when we don't. I've always been proud of you, and you can do anything you set your mind to. And so I miss that. And I also miss that my mom was always in my corner. If something goes wrong, or I feel like I've been slighted in some way, and I call my dad, he's very much, oh, well, things are going on in the world or whatever. And my mom would be like, I can't believe they did that. How could they do that? And so I miss that. I don't have that I don't have someone in my corner to pick up the charge of the fight for me.
Yeah.
I love that. So, I've heard it said by some people that you shouldn't say when your loved one died, which we haven't said it. And I thought that was interesting. And I said one time to someone, I said, I don't understand. It was Dr. Donna Sherman that said this. And I said, Donna, I don't understand. Why should we not say loved one? She said, because maybe they weren't.
Yeah.
Maybe they were a family member that died, but like you're saying, we didn't have a close relationship.
Yeah.
So for somebody out there that has lost a parent that they were not close to, and now they're feeling guilty or they wish they were closer, is there anything they could do at this point just to kind of make peace with that? For either one of you?
I had to do a lot of inner child work for myself before my mom died and before she got sick to really kind of come home to myself and remother myself. And I think from the outside, I always thought, oh, if I could have heard these things from my mom, it would have healed that part of me. So when I heard them before she died, it really didn't heal anything because I had done the work to heal myself. So I think it's important that we remember as adults, our parents if they're living, our caregivers can still be there, but their scope of influence over us as children is kind of past. So we have to go through and reparent ourselves. So I think understanding that we're the ones that have to heal it after we're grown up anyway, that when we have a relationship with somebody that dies that is not super healthy or we're left wanting, we can still turn inward and do that work and that healing for ourselves. And for me, I did a lot of inner child work. I did therapy, and that was really helpful for me. I lean on other girlfriends that have lost their mom or lost their dad when they were young and hear their struggles and hear that although our relationship was unique, a lot of the themes we go through is the same.
I love that. And I love the idea of peer support.
Yes.
And reaching out to other friends that have had a parent die. And what are your thoughts?
I think it's so important to get that validation, right? Of it's just because they died doesn't mean that they weren't who they were in life and that the relationship wasn't the relationship. And when people die, I don't put them on a pedestal because, they were a whole person, right? Even I profoundly miss my parents. I profoundly miss my brother, but sometimes my brother was a jerk or, my parents and I would disagree or, and that's natural and just part of any type of relationship, right? So I think to validate when there was strife and when it was a really hard relationship, the person dying doesn't take that away, right? It doesn't just erase it. That's very real. And you would have, I think, completely normal to have those conflicting emotions, right? And you lose the opportunity to perhaps ever go and work on it or fix it, right? And that can feel almost like you're robbed of that. Wait a minute, maybe I did want to fix this relationship or I did want to have those conversations and we didn't get a chance, right? And I think that, you can't go back in time, but you can do the processing now yourself. And like you said, kind of, you have to choose to work on that healing. There's still a relationship there. It's a very different one than when they were on the earth with you, right? But you can work on how you relate to your memories of them and how and I think you have to choose to do it yourself.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing that we can still heal it.
Yeah.
That it's there. And it's not like I can sit with my mom like this, right? But those emotions live within me.
Right.
What I know my mom would have said lives within me.
Yep.
And so I can process that without them here in the physical and regardless of my faith perspective, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Whether we feel like we'll see them again or they live on, that healing is still possible and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. For sure.
It was interesting because when my dad died, I didn't realize that I'd have to navigate a different relationship with my mother. The relationship I had with my mother changed.
Very much so.
Yeah, I didn't realize the role my dad played in our family.
Very
he was no
much
longer
so.
there.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, what? My dad was really, really interested in his grandkids and in depth and wanted to know everything they were doing, when they were doing it, and he would talk to them and have these relationships. My mom was not as interested. She was interested in golfing with them and playing tennis and doing sports with them, but not sitting down and having talks with them. And so it was like, wait a minute, I didn't realize the roles that he played. Did you, either one of you, see a difference when one parent died, having to,
my mom struggled with her mental health after my dad died. And she would talk about how very different that loss was for her than other losses. Her own father died when she was 13. So she had navigated a lot of loss. It almost felt like our roles switched. And I happened to be going through a rough time in my life. I was going through a divorce. And there were moments where she would kind of show up for me and support me. And I would feel like, oh, she's back. She's back. Like, I have my mom again. But our roles were shifted, and I was the caretaker, and not in a physical way, in an emotional way. And she would look to me, and when she was struggling or dealing with anxiety, and she would tell me, well, your father used to say this, and it worked. And I would have to say to her, I'm not him.
Yeah.
I'm not Dad. I can't be him for you. Nor do I want to be. Like, that just didn't feel right to me, and it didn't feel good, right? Because I wanted my mom, I wanted my parent.
Right.
So, I mean, our roles definitely shifted. And it never, my family and I moved in with my mom, and the house was too big for them after my dad died, it was just her. So we were physically close, which was great. But there were times where, it was like, I can't be that for you. You need to, you know what I mean? And
so there was a void left by your dad that she wanted you to fill.
Yeah. And that was it. I couldn't, right? And I knew I couldn't. I'm not him. I'm like him in a lot of ways, but I'm not him. And I can't be that for you. I mean, they were together almost 49 years, so I couldn't, I can't be that for you. No one can, right? Like, he was the special him in your life, and he can't be replaced, but you can get that support from other places, but it can't be me. And I was going to social work school at the time too, so I'm like, it cannot be me. Like, I can't do this.
That makes sense.
And we had that conversation, and I think she understood. She understood. Like, okay, but I can come to you for other things, and I'm like, absolutely. And vice versa. So, yeah, it was a definite shift.
With the eyes of a child looking back from when my dad died, that was very different. My mom was very different, but how you can put your finger on it, other than like she was really present after his death and then not, because she worked a lot. With the eyes of an adult, we see and we know as adults that when we're in a partnership, we bridge gaps for one another, right? And so I think especially after my mom has died, there's certain things that she bridged between me and my dad, my stepdad now, that I didn't realize, and vice versa. So it's very changing, but it's also a very different life for him.
Yeah.
It's a really different life for him than it was before, just as it is for all of us. Yeah, so we're figuring it out.
Well, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Because all of our losses aren't really that old since we've had our parents forever. I mean, my dad was 2020, so that was, 5 years ago? And yours was?
2023.
Yeah. 2022 with my mom.
So they're all relatively new.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for somebody out there watching the show that's had a parent loss and is just really struggling right now?
Peer support always. That's always my go-to, because it just validates the experience so much. You can't change anything, right? You can't change what happened. You can't change that. I know that I have to live out the rest of my days and all of the good and bad and in between that is coming in my life without my mom, without my parents. But so peer support is always helpful for that. But for me, always intentionally bringing my mom, bringing my dad into my life, into the life of my children, and as they start to navigate big adult things in life, to bring those pieces in. So because that's that feeling of connection is so, it's healing for me, because then my parents are still a part of my life. They're still, again, not in the physical, but I get to have things that remind me of them. I get to, I'll wear a piece of my mom's jewelry, or, and that's the little things that connect, that just helps feel, just not alone, and that they're still a part of me in my life.
Yeah.
So if you can do those things,
I love that.
Intentionally,
Yeah, I love that idea, because, my mother went on to find love again after loss, and now she has a boyfriend named Frank, and they're very happy together, and I'm wearing her wedding ring.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
So it's a piece of her that she's like, I want you to have this, because now I'm with Frank, and I love wearing it because it reminds me of my dad and my mom, and And they
Yeah.
were together 60 years, so it was a long, long time.
Yeah.
So Zaneta, what about you?
I echo what Kim said too. That peer support, you can't go without it. And those rituals we would do and that we continue to do to honor the life of the person that died, I think really helps us move through the grief in a way that helps us get to this place where it's less about the fact that they died and more about the fact that they lived. And helping my family, like my niece and my nephew, remember my mom is so important. And they didn't know my dad that died when I was 10. And so like giving them things that, you know, ensuring that like my brother had his watch, and then talking to my nephew and saying, this is going to be your watch. And you never knew our dad, but he was so special and he would have loved you, and those sorts of things. And my niece recently got married, and I know my mom would have wanted to do something special. So I paid for her flowers and said that it was in my mom's honor. And I'm like, you know, Grandma would be so proud of you and love this choice. I think,
Zaneta, I love that you did that.
yeah, it keeps it like, it brings them into the present. And to me, I think that's key. Like I have pictures of my mom and dad around my house, and to me, it's not sadness. It's to remember where I come from. And Kim, when you talked about like, we have difficult things and our parents are human, you know, and your brother could be a jerk. Like people are human. And as we grow up, we realize, and being around people that can honor that instead of, well, they're gone now, just speak highly, right?
Right.
Like when we're younger, a lot of things we do are in spite of our parents, right? I'm going to do this in spite of them, but also they give us such beauty and such strength and such determination. So I think for people that maybe didn't have the best relationship with their parent and are trying to reconcile what that looks like look at those things that were like good about them, even if you didn't see them, because it flows through our veins.
Yeah,
You know?
I love that. So where can people find both of you if they're looking for you and want to connect?
Okay. So I can be found, the nonprofit that I work for, the website is stopsoldiersuicide.org. There's a specific page on there for the project that I work on called Black Box Project, and you can literally read a little bit of my story and click on it and schedule a phone call with me or schedule a Zoom meeting with me. You get right into my calendar and see when I'm available. So my contact info is there.
That's great.
Thank you.
And my website is hoperisingtherapy.com. And you can go on there and see when I'm hosting retreats and what I'm up to and how to connect for my adventures, but also like send an email through my website, hoperisingtherapy.com.
Wonderful. Well, Zaneta and Kim, thank you so much. This was such an important show for me personally, and I know for many out there. And you know, we always close this show by saying, if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.